MidLIFE Matters, where we celebrate women's wisdom and wit. I'm Georgia Ann Lucy, your host, and I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Fran Trelease, who is a returning guest. We'll talk a little bit about her appearance 11 years ago, and she's here to bring us up to date with everything she's involved in. So welcome, Fran.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. When we last spoke, you were very involved in an initiative you developed, very innovative. I believe it was Boomer Den.
Yes, it was Boomer Den.
Helping people make career shifts at midlife.
Yes, focused on midlife, pivoting in their careers or having been out of the workforce and wanting to get back in.
Okay.
Yes, I ran that for several years.
Nice. And so then that was a recruiting perspective.
Yes,
that
it
you
was.
had. Currently, well, let's even go beyond that. For, I think, at least 25 years, you've been teaching within the Connecticut State College system.
Yes, about 25 years I've been an adjunct with the newly merged CSCU system.
And you are also a consultant, and you do corporate business training,
Yes,
consulting,
Yes, I do.
and you have an MBA. Let's talk about what you've witnessed in terms of writing skills in the workplace, because your whole focus, maybe not the whole focus, you maybe have taught other classes, but as we chatted a little bit before, all around public speaking, communications, really the very critical, I used to call them survey courses, classes people have to take.
That's right. They're mandatory.
Yeah.
And that's really been my core, kind of that business communications umbrella, how to speak and how to write well. There's a term now called executive presence, which is something that
Nice.
we're really looking at, how to just get your message across with conviction and building credibility and building trust. So that's a lot of my focus.
Okay. Someone going into the Connecticut combined college system would be exposed to in the class that you offer.
It's your traditional introduction of public speaking. But within that, we get into a lot of persuasive techniques and how to have presence and how to sway an audience and how to build that credibility and trust. So it's not only what you have to say, but how you're putting that message together and knowing what's going to resonate with your audience. That's a big part of the course.
I'm thinking, and I do HR consulting work, that's something that people coming up now into the workplace aren't probably even as comfortable. I mean, okay, let's say public speaking, at times it would say people would rather go to the dentist than have to give a presentation, right?
That is very
so
true.
It's never been something that everyone gravitates towards, but
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is sometimes younger people very hesitant to have conversations. They are much more comfortable with the digital
That's correct.
exchange.
That's correct. Outside of the classroom, some of the training I do, because I train for nonprofits and corporations as well, one of our topics is generational communications.
Okay.
And that very fact that a lot of the face-to-face is becoming more generational, and that younger people, who we would call digital natives,
Right.
they're just not as comfortable with it. They would rather text or ping or use a program like Slack as opposed to shaking hands, eye contact, and communicating a message. So generations very much are a factor.
You talk about some of the work that you've done, and I know we have a photo of you getting an award for this. An example would be, interestingly to me, my mom was from the Midwest, the Grain Society, right?
Yes, I spoke for them last year.
Out in Kansas. My mom was a
Kansas City.
Kansas native. About the importance of both community involvement
Yes.
and business etiquette.
Absolutely so. Because they tend to be lost art. Business etiquette's a lost art. It's just knowing how to respect your coworkers, respect your vendors, and build that atmosphere of cooperation. And it also dovetailed with my community engagement speech, which is that if you have a professional image in your community, whatever stakeholders you have, it ends up benefiting you in the long run. Sales, branding, image, reputation, across the board.
In addition to doing good for the community,
It's a win-win.
there's a secondary effect of
There's a win-win.
enhancing your own.
Absolutely. If
path.
someone believes that you're a trustworthy, credible institution, agency, company, they want to work with you. They want to purchase. They want to engage with you. And that's the whole reason behind it, is personal branding and corporate branding are really so important.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your current thinking about the state of people's adequacy with writing skills?
One of the reasons I created my program, WriteRight Method, is because there is a decline And it's not taking away from people's intelligence or passion for a certain field, but there is a general literacy decline. It doesn't correlate to your level in a company. It doesn't correlate to your intelligence. We've gotten away from clear grammar, clear sentence construction, being able to get a message out concisely. It's something that employers are seeing, and it's something that can hinder progress, not only getting a job, but moving up within a job and getting into leadership positions. Because success is not only knowing a specific skill, but it's the ability to get a message across to someone. There is a gap, and I saw this back with Boomer Den. There's a gap between the literacy and writing skills that new graduates have and the needs in the job market. So what I'm trying to do is address and fill that gap through education.
So you talk about things like best practices and...
Absolutely. I created an online 12-module program. First, it brings them back to the basics. What's a sentence?
Yeah.
You know, we go back to grammar, best practices for a full, complete sentence, punctuation, editing, proofreading, and also knowing your audience. We look at audience analysis because you want to write differently depending on who you're writing to. So it's how to know how someone's going to receive your message. We talk about AI. AI is everywhere. What role does that play in helping people raise the level of their writing? Intercultural, the world's getting smaller, so we look at the effect of writing to other parts of the world and the cultural influences and how that affects writing. And the overall goal is just to raise that level so that people have more of a competitive feel, and they're able to, and it's a slow job market also. So people who can write well and communicate well, it helps them cut through the clutter, and it helps them get noticed. And once on the job, it helps them move forward with clarity and confidence and conviction, things that will advance themselves personally as well as their employer, their company.
So I'm picturing someone early on in their college career, and you're emphasizing the importance of all of this, saying the public speaking and
Yes.
Business etiquette, etc. Is it a hard sell to like capitalize the beginning of a sentence and put a period and maybe look to where a comma would go? I mean, seriously.
More so than it used to be.
Okay.
More so than it used to be. I think there are just some cultural trends. Part of it being that, and I talk to my students about it, our attention span is getting
Right.
shorter and shorter. Social media, we're getting more used to that 140 character. You know,
Right.
just say what you want to say without the formatting. So it is becoming a harder sell to explain why it's still important, and it's the personal and professional costs when it's not there.
Many people wouldn't necessarily understand the value of terminology, how different fields, words matter.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. And that's one of the things we talk about, too, is that every field and every industry has its own jargon. It has its own acronyms. And so part of that audience analysis that I referenced is knowing who you're communicating to. Do you want to define those terms? If you're talking to a layman's audience, translate that jargon and understand your goal is to make it understandable so that person can read it once, understand it, act on it if they have to, eliminate that back and forth confusion. And it's very concise and action oriented is the best way to communicate.
We discussed the idea that with some of these, say a nonprofit agency or a state agency that you might consult with outside of your professor role, things are subject to legal scrutiny.
Absolutely
so if words
so.
aren't used in the appropriate context or
Absolutely.
place,
Yes.
if you could talk about that a little bit.
Some of the contract work I do is with the Connecticut Department of Children and Families, DCF, and I offer training to the social workers and the case workers, and for them, a lot of their case notes wind up in front of attorneys and they wind up in front of judges and in courtrooms. They have to be very, very careful of phrasing, separating out evidence from opinion, because just as you said, there are legal implications. And so that really matters. For financial companies, the way they phrase something, the way they present something can make the difference between being audited or not. So there's a lot of implications, and many people don't realize it. They think of the way they write as an afterthought. It absolutely can cost you at the other end if your language invites a lawsuit or an unexpected audit.
So let's take social workers, for example.
Yeah.
Do you think social work programs typically emphasize the importance of using the right words?
Part of their onboarding and training, they will reference it. It's one of those skills that needs to be continually refreshed and worked on. It's not a one-time and you're done. With a lot of their new situations, they're not always sure. What can I reference? What can I not? Are families going to see this? Is the court going to see this? They touch on it, but I think, and a lot of agencies have this, there's funding issues, they're short-staffed. They just don't have the means to keep this as front and center for their staff as it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. You've referenced AI. I'm very concerned about the impact of AI on...
Many of us are.
Yeah, I worked the workplace, again, being an HR person, and just, citizens. What do you see as the convergence of AI with writing skills?
It's a little bit of the wild, wild west.
Okay.
We're trying to figure that out. And on the academic side, it's something that we're holding staff workshops about, because AI is a wonderful tool, but what we're seeing on the academic side is many students are using it in place of creating their own content and in place of generating their own ideas. So we're trying to be creative in the way that we shape assignments and projects so that a student needs to do their own critical analysis, present their own findings, as opposed to putting a query in ChatGPT and just sending it over. And it's to their detriment, because critical thinking skills, people will need them in every field across the board. If that's part of the slippery slope of AI, is it has its advantages, but it needs to be used strategically, and we're still trying to figure that out.
I've taken some classes in critical thinking skills, and I totally agree that thinking about thinking is important, right? Being conscious of the process a person's using to arrive at conclusions, making judgments,
Absolutely.
gathering data,
Absolutely.
assumptions, etc. The dangers of all of that. And it does seem that taking shortcuts, if you will, I'll hear a student say, "Oh, I just use it to make an outline for me." And I'm thinking, making an outline is kind of a key part of preparing your thoughts.
The key there is what they used as their input.
Okay.
So if you have some very good content and you simply use AI to organize it and say, what's the best flow of these points, that can be a help. That can be a shortcut. But if you're saying to AI, here's my topic, what do you think makes for a good outline, that's where we're running into trouble.
I have seen some universities, whatever, experimenting with the old, I mentioned blue books, like making students take tests in writing, but students don't really have necessarily good penmanship.
No, they don't.
Writing skills, right?
Well,
No, seriously,
cursive
that would
writing
really
isn't-
slow them down. Right,
Yes.
just how printing, whatever, but the
Yes.
idea of actually
Yeah.
using, would be
It's
a
foreign
barrier.
to many of them. But what I do see at a lot of schools is not the writing so much, but bringing them in front. It's oral presentation as well. It's crafting the message, but being able to look someone in the eye and communicate their findings. And also, with presentations, there's follow-up questions. I always build Q&A in, because if you don't know your material and you're simply reciting something that you took off ChatGPT, and someone hits you with a question, you're floored.
Right.
It's getting back to the old-fashioned, the blue books, but also being able to synthesize information yourself and reason through it yourself and communicate to somebody. And we're working hard to keep those front and center.
And also other forms of communication. Businesses
Yeah.
grappling with how they conduct their business, right? They
yes.
aren't necessarily relying on the same methodology. So I'll just use an example. One small business I was working with was established for some time, very much face-to-face. It's sales. Most
Yes.
businesses have sales involved. Very distressed that one of their key people was relying on sending an email as opposed to reaching out and making that human connection.
Yes.
Didn't really want to go to trade shows. But then I'm thinking, well, that all may become somewhat passé.
To a degree, it is. You can't look anywhere without seeing an AI training class offered for employees and educators because everyone's trying to figure it out.
Right.
There always will be a need for trade shows. There always will be a need for face-to-face. And I think the challenge is how to use them both effectively. So it's not an either or, but keeping both in the mix and understanding when each one is appropriate and using them effectively.
We'll have to wait and see how this all...
Yes.
Yeah, but and meanwhile, we talk about business skills, career progress. Again, being in HR, I'm very much attuned to that. Life skills as well. I mean, critical thinking helps you
Yes. Yes.
in every aspect of your life.
It's so important.
Right.
It's so important. And the future generations, not only personally but professionally,
Yeah.
the people who are out there in 20 years or so out in their fields, and independent thinking and being able to draw their own conclusions, it's a very dangerous slope, because when you lose that ability, you're more inclined to just be fed information and not challenge and not question and just parrot what someone else has told you. And that's where we get into this whole era of misinformation.
Okay.
So we're constantly trying to push back on that. And I tell my students, don't take anything at face value. Push for the truth. Who's telling you this? Do they have an agenda? Do they have a bias? If you get two sources that tell you different things, that there's a discrepancy, it's up to you to go out and keep digging and find the truth. Because we're all fed so many messages every day.
Right.
To not just passively take things at face value. And so that's a really important part of this whole thing.
One thing I've stressed with performance management is the importance of clarifying and confirming information. So even if you're doing someone's performance appraisal, where did you get that information from?
Yes.
Was it one encounter, or you need to go out and really find out
Right.
more about it, and don't
Yeah.
knee-jerk react.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is pass along information you haven't verified.
Absolutely.
Because that's where it takes on a life of its own. And that's where, a lot of businesses, there's a real cost to businesses in not preparing people to think critically, compose their own messages, use their own voice to get their message across and to be able to back it with hard evidence. And that's where you run into liabilities, and that's where you run into unexpected audits and brain drains. When people feel that their role isn't clarified, they're going to leave. If you have confusion and you have ambiguity and someone's not presenting you with parameters around what you're supposed to do and able to back it up with the
Right.
facts, a lot of our best and brightest don't want to stay. So there's a real cost to companies in not taking the time and effort to get people, regardless of their technical skills,
Right.
to not get people up to speed with the way that they synthesize information and the way that they communicate.
And I imagine most management people would hope employees come with those skills.
They do.
Yes. And
They
so
do, and some do.
that's a little bit of the push-pull as well.
Absolutely, and to no fault of universities. They do a brilliant job. But a lot of their tutoring centers, their writing centers, are focused on academic writing.
Yeah.
How to write the thesis, how to write the essay. Not so much preparing the person for the memo, the meeting notices, the abstracts, the summaries. It's a different animal. And that's where their intentions are good, but they're just not able to provide that type of training,
Okay.
and that's where it hurts a lot of people out in the professional world.
So we all have to get better at how to write right.
How to write right.
Right. Okay.
That's correct.
And so this very much fits with where you started in your career as a journalist.
I did.
You wanted to get the story right.
I did.
So that's very much the thread of what you're trying to help people do with
Yes.
applying these skills in a business.
To get it right.
Yeah.
Yes, I do see that thread. I've been, starting with my college newspaper, I've been a journalist since my 20s, and then moving over to corporate writing. And it all does fit together, because to be a journalist, you want to get to the truth. And I want my students to arrive at the truth. And once they're out in the workforce, I want them to be able to get to the real facts and to be able to back them up and have credibility and build that trust in what they're communicating.
work in progress, always, right? We're always
Always.
growing and evolving. This is a show for women. Have women been central to helping you in your career?
I think so. I find it's more personality versus gender, but there have been some wonderful women, some professors, some supervisors who have been very supportive and coaching and mentoring, and that's something that I encourage, whether you're midlife or you're new to the workforce. I always encourage people to seek out mentors. Speaking of generations, we tend to think of mentors as the older person mentoring
Right.
the young, and that's a wonderful thing to do, but we're now seeing the value of young people mentoring the older ones because they each bring different sets of skills. The older worker brings experience and able to navigate situations and wisdom, and yet the younger person who might be more savvy with the technical tools can sit down with an older person. I think mentoring in all directions is increasingly important. I benefited from some, and I always encourage people to reach out and find some. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't be too proud.
Yeah.
And most people, I find most people want you to succeed. Once in a while, you'll run into a snag, but most people, if you approach them and ask for support, they want to help you, and they're flattered to be asked, and they're going to do their best to help you.
Okay. I have found that to be true.
Yeah.
As well. Do you have any tips about staying relevant in a profession?
Yes, I do. I just want to say, first of all, ageism is alive and well. And I saw that with my recruiting agency as well, and it's really too bad. I think that people 40, 50 plus, they bring immeasurable value to the workplace. And so I think for them, relevance comes from understanding their own value, not minimizing, even if an employer is wanting to minimize because of your age, to not minimize yourself, to not internalize that, and to realize that your years of experience bring skills and an aspect to the workplace that younger people don't have.
Right.
I think the relevance comes from understanding your value, but I also encourage people to be open at the same time and to not have a wall up. And if there is a new system or a new software program or a new process, to be open to learning that and partnering that with the wisdom that you bring. And to me, that's immeasurable value.
And it's great for your brain.
It is great for your brain.
It's great
It
for your
keeps
brain.
you
I'm
sharp.
all into let's feed the brain. So listen,
Yeah.
we're talking about as we age. What about advice you would give your younger self?
I would have given my younger self a little more of a pep talk.
Okay.
And so what I tell a lot of my students is sometimes we don't always know what we want to do, but a lot of people innately, they have a passion for a field. I want to go into criminal justice, or I want to be an engineer, or I want to do what have you. Listen to that voice. Listen to that voice. Seek the resources that you need to succeed. If there are skills you need to learn, find out, how do I get those skills? Who do I speak to? And my biggest advice is to just be true to yourself. There's a quote that I like to quote from Steve Jobs. He gave a commencement speech years ago at Stanford University.
Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become.
And I strongly stand by that. We're only here once, and someone else may have a career path for you that's not true to you. So my advice to younger people is to identify where you want to be, listen to that, and take steps to make that happen.
That's very empowering. So do you have another quote you would like to offer, or are we going to go with Steve?
Well, he's one of my favorites. I mean, I'm happy to quote from Hamlet.
That's
You know, I have a Hamlet quote, above all else, to thine own self be true.
excellent. Thank you so much. Hamlet had all that wisdom way back.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you so much for sharing
Oh, you're welcome.
your current work and your efforts and your passions. And
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for
You're
bringing me
welcome.
back.
Super.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening, and please tune in to hear other fascinating women on future episodes of Midlife Matters. I'm Georgianne Lucier, your host. Thanks again.